Hey, welcome back everybody. Got a new location. I don't have a sweet recording studio, but we'll have to use the dining room as a substitute. But if you're new to the channel, my name's CJ and you're watching Sweat Equity. And on today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down all the numbers in regards to this property right here. I'll pop a picture up on the screen for you if you haven't already seen it. What it costs, how much it costs us to renovate, and how we shook out in the refi process. So let's get into it. I bought this property as using the BRRRR strategy. If you're not familiar with the BRRRR strategy, it's to buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And we'll break down that whole process as we go through this little breakdown. But we went ahead and bought the property. It was originally listed on the MLS, and I bid on it and won with my bid of $44,000. But then the bank pulled it off the MLS and said they wanted to put it on auction.com. Didn't know they could do that, but obviously they can do whatever they want. So from $44,000, they put it on auction.com, and of course, the opening bid was $44,000. I put my bid in, and the initial bid has to be in increments of $5,000, so it jumped the price up to $49,000. And then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, darn, my max bid on this is going to be $55,000. If somebody bids on top of $49,000, it's going to put it to $54,000, and it'll be out of contention, and I won't be able to do the property. And I've been dying to do a BRRRR strategy property for a long time. That's what I've been researching the most of. And I went ahead and just bid again. Another $5,000 right off the top, bid myself up, additional $5,000, put the bidding price at $54,000. Clock runs down, boom, 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 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reserve not met. So from there, it restarts the clock to 2 minutes and it drops the initial bid, or the bid increments from $5,000, and in my situation, dropped from $5,000 to $2,000. And then it started counting down again from 2 minutes, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'm sitting there, pins and needles, back down at 3, 2, 1, reserve not met again. And I'm still the high bidder at $54,000, and I'm freaking out at this point in time. But now the initial increment bid has went from $2,000 to $500. So now I'm really worried. And I'm just watching it go down. 3, 2, 1 again, reserve not met. And it drops the bid again to $100. I was like, this is a little bit ridiculous. But after it dropped to $100, it got rid of the reserve, and we're down to 2-minute wait time on pins and needles, because $100 is nothing in consequence to the $54,000 already bid on it, so someone can bid at any time. So I was trying to be ready to throw my bid on top of his if somebody did bid, and I was just frantic. But thankfully, it hit 3, 2, 1, and we won the property, and I was pumped. So all in on the house to purchase it, we were in at $54,000, and I'll put that right here, and we'll follow along as we keep building some of these expenses. But so got the keys. I'm pumped to get started. I do the initial walkthrough, which is our first video on this channel, is the initial walkthrough of the property and a little bit of rehab on it, but I was pumped. So now we get into the fun part, in my opinion, is the renovation. And the renovation came out to a grand total of $32,000. I'll put that underneath that $54,000. And we'll run through some of the expenses that I'm going to run across this side of the screen. And as you'll see, there was a ton of trips to Lowe's and other vendors. But our major hits to the budget is going to come from $4,500 for the AC install and materials, $4,500 for plumbing, sorry, $3,700 for AC install and materials, $3,500 for the roof materials. And thankfully, it's that cheap because I installed it myself with the help of some friends and family. Big shout out to y'all. Next big one was $1,500 for sheetrock taping or floating and texturing. Then we had $1,100 for the materials I used to build the load-bearing beam that goes across the living room and dining room kitchen area. And then the other ones were $1,000 for tubs and valves, and another $1,000 for a contractor to come in and put the partition wall, which divided up the old master bedroom and turned it into its own bedroom with a hallway, and separated out that master bath to make it a hall bath. And as you can see, the expenses just kept coming. And every one of those expenses really just a trip for me to go to Lowe's. At the very last one, I think it's 55 cents. Yeah, 55 cents. I think that was a O-ring, or maybe it was a nails. I'm not sure. I think it was an O-ring on the plumbing day. That was a pain in the butt day. I went to Lowe's like 17 times that day. But all in all, would not have changed a single thing from this process. And that brings our total to $54,000 plus $32,000 gives us a grand total of $86,000 all in cost. And now that we've got our all in cost, it's time to do, well, I kind of skipped one of the R's. First R, buy, rehab. We already rehabbed it. Now we gotta get to rent. I looked up and rented this property before we put the roof on, so it was rented before we even finished the rehab. So we got the rent knocked out. We'll break into some of those rental numbers here shortly. But now we got to get to the third R, which is refinance. So I went to my mortgage broker. I told him what I was looking to do, refinance this property. And he said we had to get it appraised. He says, what was my estimations? I said 150. And they send out an appraiser. I looked up, and the appraiser's actually, her family is from the street that I redid this house on. So she was over the moon with the renovation. Her parents were super happy that we rebuilt this abandoned house, and just makes the neighborhood look way better. She gave us an after appraised value of $160,000. And I think I lost it that day. I was just so pumped. This process just seems like just like a pipe dream. It's just like someone trying to sell you snake oil. It just sounds like one of those little tiered marketing gimmicks of how the BRRRR strategy works. And that's the whole reason I did this, because I couldn't talk to anybody that's done this. Everybody I know just buys rental property with their own money and just rents them out. But I was really intrigued about putting your money in and pulling it out. And at this point in time, it's working. We got an appraised value of 160, and now we need to turn that into cash. Well, when you refinance a property, in my situation, I can only take out 75% of the value. I had to leave 25% value in there. So we're able to refinance $120,000, and we left $40,000 in equity. Of that $120,000, there's fees and other closing costs associated with it, just like there would be if you bought a house. So from that 120, I'll put that right here. They had to deduct our closing costs, which was about $8,000. Seems high, I agree. And then that brings us down to $112,000 of cash. It's money, it's taxes, everything's already been taken out. No, sorry. There's no taxes on this, which we'll get to in a minute. But we have $112,000, and then we'll put these numbers together, and we'll take that $112,000 minus the all-in cost of $86,000, and that brings us to an initial earnings of $26,000. And I was just pumped. I've been talking about this forever with everybody in my family, especially my wife, just telling her everything's gonna be perfect, we're gonna get this done, and we did it, and it was a success, and it's just made the real estate sickness even worse. Definitely caught the bug, but I'm super pumped about it. So keep that $26,000 in mind. We're gonna minus out $6,000 from that 26, and I'm gonna use that $6,000 as a security blanket on this house. All of our major projects are done and brand new in this house. We've got a new roof, new AC, new hot water heater. 80% of the electrical is brand new. I don't see any major issues coming up, so that $6,000 is going to take the place of the 5% deduct on maintenance, 5% deduct on CapEx expenses, all that cool jazz. And all I'm going to deduct from the rent that I'm about to get into is the 10% for management fees, and we'll keep that $6,000 as a safety net, just in case something crazy happens and we need to fix it. So now that we've got our grand total of initial earnings of $26,000, let's get into what we're renting it for and how much we make on the rents. So I initially rented it before we finished for $1,300 a month, and then I reached out to a property manager, and she advised that I rented it for too cheap. I should be renting it easily for $1,400 a month. So that's looking good when we do get a new tenant to raise that rent up automatically. But in the meantime, we're still making money. So if you take that $1,300, we have to take out the 10%, like I said, for a property manager. Even though I don't have a property manager watching it, I want to make sure that I'm removing that cost from the initial earnings, so I don't get used to spending it or putting it into another fund. So I'm just going to keep putting it into that $6,000 safety net that I've already put into a separate account, and that 10% will just go into that little account and just keep building it up until I decide to bring on a property manager, and then that 10% will go to them. So taking the 10% from the $1,300, that leaves us with $1,170. Well, I'm going to keep all that because now it used to be fully owned by me. Now that I got a mortgage on it, I have a mortgage, I've got insurance, and that comes out to in principal. So when a mortgage, principal, insurance, and taxes. So that total came out to $860. We'll put that right there. I initially thought it would be about $760, but I quickly learned that insurance companies hate old homes. Just a heads up for everybody out there. In this house, if y'all remember, it was built in 1931. So we got docked like $200 a month for home insurance. You would think with a track record of surviving every major storm on the Gulf Coast from 1931 till now, you know, you get a little Super Bowl ring discount. I don't know. But no. It's just not how it works. It's stupid. I agree. Leave a comment down below if you agree with me. If not, just don't. But that leaves us with, we're going to take that 1170, we're going to minus out the 860 in the mortgage, and that leaves us with a grand total of $310 a month in earnings, passive income earnings for this property. And all in all, I am super pumped with the outcome of this project. It went to plan, actually exceeded plan, and like I said, further instilled the benefit of this process in me. And I hope I could teach anybody here anything they'd like to know about this process. I kind of take it in broad strokes on this channel just because it can get really in the weeds if we start going into mad details. But if y'all have any questions, that's the whole reason I started this channel, to be a resource to anybody that's interested in getting real estate or having rental properties. Doesn't have to be just with BRRRR. It could be anything. So leave a comment down below if you have anything y'all want to hear about or for me to talk about. But that is the reason I started the channel, is because I'm still new to actually taking action on these properties instead of just learning about them. I felt all the channels that I watch right now on YouTube are already exceeded the point that I'm at right now and are in way bigger projects that are just kind of hard to wrap my situation around there. So in this point in time, I wanted to start the channel just from the very first day all the way in to see what it turns out to be. So I really appreciate you guys following along, and I look forward to getting into the next house, which, fun fact, if you've made it this far in the video, I'll give you a little bit of a teaser, but I've closed on the second property, closed on that about 2 weeks ago. I'll pop a picture up right here somewhere, and you guys will see it. I've already shot the video for the first episode. I was just having editing issues with this one, figuring out how I wanted to put this together. So again, this video is going to be a lot different than my other ones, so we'll figure out if this is the best format, or for the end caps if we need to change something else in the future. But really appreciate you guys following along. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button. What are you waiting for, guys? Let's run this count up. So we'll see you guys next week. Peace.